My hands are freezing. Okay. So, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, Linus Tech Tips made a video where he built a communist computer for Hassan. In the comments of that video, I had a discussion, a conversation, a disagreement with a YouTuber named Arthemesia, I believe. And this is a reply to a video that he made about our conversation.
Here's the thing, right? When you look at fascism, what was it? Well, the government owned the means of production.
That's not really true. The government didn't own the means of production. Private entities own the means of production, which is capitalism. Now, the government did have a lot of control over what those corporations did production-wise, right? It needed to be for the benefit of the state, but that's still capitalism. It's just very regulated capitalism.
The people were not free. There was a lot of racism involved with fascism.
Yeah.
Highly irrelevant because
How?
the thing about it is how socialists really like to define fascism is hyper right-wing racism.
Like hyper right-wing, like ethno-nationalism is definitely like in the direction of fascism for sure. Yeah, because like that's what the Nazis were.
But that would just be racism, right? Well, no.
No.
They got to talk about it as if it's like an entire economic system. Really,
it is.
Fascism's a little different than what they think. It is an economic system.
Who is they? Am I they? He's talking about me, but he's saying they, so.
Really showed what fascism truly was under his. Like, I think he's got the best definition of it.
Yeah.
Based on the actions of what he took, which is hyper-corporatism.
Yes. Yeah.
Essentially is enslaving their people. I mean, it's major corporations. Yeah, to a degree, I guess you could I could see why they would want to call it capitalism.
That's because it is capitalism. It's a very like tightly controlled oligarchy, but that's still capitalism. You can have capitalism with a small number of people being the ones benefiting from it. Like that's perfectly okay in capitalism.
But it's not. Because
what's
the thing
not?
about it is whenever only like 3 or 4 people own the entire economy, and you're not allowed to be a part of that economy other than what the government tells you to.
No, they told the corporations what they had to produce and in what quantities they had to produce and what, all that kind of stuff.
It's still socialist, communist garbage. It's just a different name for it.
A different name because it's a different system. It's not socialism. It's not communism. It's fascism.
And a few other people are involved. So more or less, here's what it is, okay? You got your communist government. They are the kings, okay? They own all the money, all the production, all that. Okay?
Sure.
But then you get fascism, which wants to hide that a little bit. They want to be a little bit more secretive about it. So they have a couple companies that are actually taking the money instead.
Okay, so I think we agree here. I think we agree that having a small group of people, of oligarchs, benefiting from the economic production of the entire society is a bad thing. He seems very fixated on the name and like the definitions, but he also seems to be wrong about them. So which is a little confusing, but all right.
But it's still them. It's still the same people. They just put a company, quote unquote, in place.
Yeah, all right.
So here's the difference. You have in communism, where they force you to work in factories and stuff to do stuff for the government. And then
in state capitalism and like hyper-authoritarian communism and socialism, yeah, I agree. Authoritarian communism, socialism, very bad. Any kind of authoritarianism is bad. I think that seems to be what his problem is authoritarianism, and he's confusing socialism with authoritarianism.
In fascism, they slap a name on that company, and say, oh, it's not really the government you're doing your daily duties, you know what I mean? And we're going to pay you, quote unquote, even though it's, the same exact stuff that they would get.
That's capitalism. That's what capitalism is.
In communism, there's no difference. They just slap a little bit of a definition on it and paint the turd.
I'm not sure how he doesn't see how, like, something being different requires a different definition and a different name. Like, that's kind of the point of definitions and words.
You know what I'm saying?
At this point, he goes on a little bit about the DPRK. I more or less agree with his assessment. The DPRK is bad.
I'm pretty sure I didn't comment that early on it. Maybe I did.
You did.
But anyway,
see it
my
right
whole
there.
point here was a socialist. Let's see, what was it per point? Actually, read what socialism means. I've read about everything from every mainstream socialist you could read.
See, that I think I don't necessarily believe this, because later on we have a debate about what the difference between private and personal property, and if he had actually read every mainstream socialist, I imagine he would have come across the difference between private and personal property at some point. Maybe.
But he said, also learn the difference between private and personal property. I love that. I'm going to get to that. But I said, I'm talking about capital and all that. Hassan owns capital. Hassan owns capital.
Yeah, he does. He lives in a capitalist society.
It's ironic because he's supposed to redistribute his wealth.
The point of advocating for change of government is so that the government does it, right? Otherwise, he would just be advocating for charity, right? That's a capitalist thing. That's I think that Arthemesia's bias when it comes to thinking that capitalism is correct leads him to not seeing the contradictions of what he's saying, right? Just because you advocate for something for the government to do doesn't mean that you have to act that way, right?
He's supposed to, not be a part of the capitalist system. Now, I understand living in a capitalist system, right? You can't get around it.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
I understand that. But why don't you rent?
Because renting would be irresponsible, like, financially, and he lives in a capitalist system.
Why don't you buy a property then and then allow everyone to live in it?
Because he's not a communist. I don't think he's ever said he's a communist.
You know what I mean? Allow people to come and go as they please.
Why?
Right?
No.
He doesn't do that, though.
Of course he doesn't.
He doesn't live by any of the principles of what socialism is.
Those are not the principles of socialism. See, this is what makes me think that he has not read anything about socialism or communism. Hassan can be a capitalist in a capitalist society and still advocate for a socialist society or for socialist reforms. Like, there's no contradiction here. I don't understand what he's getting at.
He's a capitalist. He's trying to make money for his...
Or, no, I do understand what he's getting at. I disagree with what he's getting at.
Linus is a capitalist.
Yeah,
and Linus is going to make that money for building this socialist, his own personal, private...
Personal and private, correct,
computer. Yes. His own capital investment into his own business.
Actually, I think, isn't he making the computer for Hassan for free? That's definitely not capitalism. That's like a favor economy or a gifting economy.
Oh, let's get into this. This is great. It's great. I'll also say I don't really care about the history of socialism.
I don't. I care about the future of capitalism and socialism, about the economy, yeah.
I care about current implementation of capitalism and its alternatives. We can understand the atrocities of the 20th century and try to avoid them if we should. Also look for success to repeat.
Right. So in his moment here, he's going to, at least in my opinion, heavily misinterpret what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to let him talk, and then I'm going to correct what I think his misinterpretations were.
Now, he doesn't care about the history of socialism, but he cares about the current implementation of capitalism, its alternatives.
Its alternatives are socialism.
and the atrocities of the 20th century.
One of
Guys,
them.
is it the 20th century or 21st century?
It now is the 21st century, but the 20th century is where all of the atrocities happened. So
Oh, so he cares about the history of the atrocities coming from the alternatives and capitalism.
right, from socialism and communism and capitalism. Those are the alternatives to capitalism.
But he does not care about the atrocities from socialism. I kindly point this.
Wait, the alternatives to capitalism, one of them is socialism.
But he has the balls to call me biased.
Yeah, you're biased.
You know? And he's like, I didn't say that I care about the atrocities of socialism. Yes, you did. Like, you said...
No, I didn't. You misunderstood what I said. Maybe I didn't express myself properly, but yeah, you misunderstood what I said.
That every system has failings and success. I would like to take things that work from every system to make a better future for everybody instead of...
Man, okay, I literally just stated what I want, and somehow he's going to turn this into something bad?
A small elite, which is a problem. Okay, but there's nothing to really glean from socialism.
What do you mean there's nothing to glean from socialism? Like, having people have control of the business that they work at, that is a good thing that you can get from socialism. Like, how is that not something you could glean from socialism?
Okay, there is a social aspect, but that is involved with every single system ever. It is not a socialist thing to have social aspects to capitalism. I know that sounds silly, right? It's like, well, socialism, social, duh, you're gleaning it off of it. No, every single thing we have ever done has been social.
Right. What?
When we were living in tribes, hunting and gathering for each other, nobody's over anybody, nobody's really anyone's boss. I mean, there was a chief usually, but...
I don't think he understood... I don't know how much he's looking to hunter-gatherers, but... hunter-gatherer societies, but I don't think he really knows what he's talking about here.
Everybody's equal in that regard.
Equal in what regard?
And a lot of the times, people that got their own hunt got to get first pick or whatever they did. It was a pretty much kind of a capitalist system.
How is that a capitalist system? There's no... Are they selling the meat? Like, are they... Do they own the land and they're renting the land for hunting? Are they renting their spears out? Like, are they... I don't really understand. Are they making like a business out of hunting and selling the animals? Like, I don't understand how that's capitalism.
The person who got the hunt got rewarded.
They didn't. No, they didn't. They rewarded by nature? What? Or by themselves? Who is rewarding the person doing the hunting here?
In a lot of the situations, if you look back in any of those tribal historical, well, I won't say documents, but any of the recorded history of tribes.
There's very little recorded
history. There's a lot of situations where rewards and...
There's very little recorded history of hunter-gatherer societies. They mostly have oral traditions.
Stuff like that were given. How is that exactly equal at all costs?
Equal at all costs? What are you talking about? What is he talking about? Equal. Did I say anything about equal at cost? Did he point to anyone else saying it? Where is he getting this equal at all cost thing?
You know what I mean? Like the socialism. So this was before...
Socialism does not require equal at all costs. And there might be socialists who advocate for that, but I didn't say that, and I don't think that. Yeah.
Socialism was really a thing. People were social, and there was kind of a capitalistic aspect. There was also other aspects of many different, like, I guess you could say, economies.
All societies are social. That doesn't mean that they're socialists. All society, like, hunter-gatherer is its own thing. It's separate from capitalism. It's separate from socialism and communism, mercantilism. Like, I don't understand what he's talking about. This doesn't make any sense.
But it is not socialist to be social.
Right, yeah.
The root word in socialist is social. Social came first, okay?
So?
Socialist is an extreme version of being social, okay?
The social in socialism comes from the fact that under socialism, you have social ownership of the means of production, right? Like society or groups of people own the means of production. It has nothing to do with socialization or whatever he's trying to get at here.
Let's get to this where we find out about them, or where they redefine things, This is what's funny. He says, very simply, and of course I put fascism up here. Before I get to that, he's like, literally fascism has capitalism in it, not socialism, like the definition does. And so I put the definition here. It is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression and oppression, and strong regimentation of society and the economy.
Right. Yeah, so they're regimenting a capitalist economy, right? Just because it's regimented doesn't mean that it's not capitalist.
Capitalism is the antithesis of regimentation.
That's incorrect.
Of society and the economy. Mostly the economy, of course. I bumped my microphone, sorry. Mostly the economy. So it's the opposite. Capitalism is literally the opposite of, a takeover of the economy, more or less.
No.
Trying to force...
No, you can have a heavily regulated economy and still be capitalism.
The economy's outcome to exactly what your government desires. That's not capitalism.
It could be.
No, it is not. Socialism and communism literally fit the bill of fascism every single day by its own.
That's not quite right. Like authoritarian communism and socialism could fit the bill for fascism. But like a libertarian version of socialism and communism where people are free to do as they choose, then that would not fit the fascism bill.
Definition from Webster's dictionary, mind you, which is very left-leaning because they've been changing definitions as of late, but this is still the current definition.
Are they updating definitions? What does that mean? What is it exactly that they're changing here?
Which came into prominence in the early 20th century Europe. And I said, so that being the definition, when...
Also, if they're changing the definitions, why are you trusting their definition?
Has capitalism ever had government control of the economy? The only one who lied was you.
What did I lie about?
So...
Wait, I don't think I lied. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. At least I definitely didn't knowingly lie.
This is the thing. He says if you look into fascism a little bit, you will see that it's presented as an alternative to socialism. We went over this. So Then he goes over to private property. This part just kills me.
He doesn't look dead to me.
Property, through a socialist lens, is property that one owns but does not use personally, usually to produce profit in some manner.
You might use it personally as long as you're using it to produce profit. It's private property.
Rent is one example. Personal property is property that one owns and uses regularly. Your car or home would be examples of personal property. Clearly, that could get murky very quickly. Like, what if you used your home office as a business and you have to go on a year-long business trip? This is the thing. Private property through socialism is property that one owns but does not use personally. This is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I don't know where his second comment went.
There was no second comment.
But he tried defining... Where was it? Did this change? Because he ended up saying...
You can tell it's not edited because it doesn't say edited right here.
Personal property is one that own uses regular. Private property, whose socialist lens, was property that one owns, but other people also own and use. And I said...
What?
You define socialist private property as public property. That's my point exactly, and all that.
What?
But this is just what's very, very ridiculous.
I definitely did not do that.
I think he has edited this comment.
I can't have edited it. It says it's
after.
not edited.
He had to have. He had to have edited this comment.
Doesn't make sense.
Because that's not what he said earlier.
You can even see his says edited right here, where he edited it, and mine doesn't. What?
That's really frustrating. Can I go through and... Nope. Used to be able to go back and see after someone edited.
You can. I think you still can
see the original. But apparently you can't do that anymore.
Click on an edited comment.
That's not his PC.
Like yours.
It's our PC. I love this. But this is what's ridiculous, right? It's private property. He said earlier, private property is, because private property is
He's arguing against something that doesn't exist. This is a straw man argument.
something that a community owns. I guess commune.
That's public property,
community.
He
General, a
means
community
public,
owns
right?
and can use. And I'm like, you mean like the roads that our tax money pays for?
Public
or
property.
payphones back in the
That's
day,
public
when everyone
property.
could use those, or, public libraries and computers. Yeah, it's private property, but
no, it's not. Those are
we have
public
another
property.
word
That's
for
public
it,
property.
right? When everyone can use property that's funded by everyone, it's called public
Right, yeah. What are you talking about? You're not arguing against my argument here.
property. And that's what's funny about it. But here's the thing, right? Now he's changed the definition to private property through socialism is property that one owns.
I didn't change the definition. This is like a normal, like, Marxist, socialist, whatever you want to call it, definition of the difference between private and personal property. I don't know who he's arguing against right now.
But does not use personally. What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? Usually to produce profit in some manner, right?
So, like, if you own a factory but you don't work in the factory, you own private property but you don't use it, your workers use it, that's private property. It's not personal property.
So, rent is an example of
Yeah.
private property.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense because he is personally using that property.
Who's he?
He is personally using that property.
Me?
100%.
I
He is
know.
allowing other people to use it.
Right, so he's not personally using it. He's renting it out for profit. That's private property.
I believe we call that,
Private property.
if you're not charging someone's borrowing it. If you're charging somebody,
What?
they're renting it.
He's smiling like he's saying something intelligent here, but I don't think he's not even responding to what I'm saying.
That does not mean it's not personal property. So what in the world is this dude trying to even say?
What are you trying to
He
say?
just defined private property twice.
No. Oh, see this. Okay, this is why I said he's biased. Under like capitalism, private property and personal property are the same thing, right? Under Marxism and like socialism, that kind of stuff, private and personal property are separate things. They're different, right? This is what I'm saying he's biased. He can only view it from his own perspective.
Is all. But he's trying to break it up into subcategories after that. But like I said, that's not what he said earlier.
It totally is what I said earlier.
But anyway, I also respond to, what is free market about the government having 100% control over the market, just...
Nothing. There's nothing free market about that. I never said there was.
It's crazy to me. Crazy to me. When they try to change definitions. It's crazy to me that he would even change this comment.
I didn't.
But that's the way a socialist thinks.
No, apparently that's the arguing against the straw man and lying about whether I edited the comment is what you would do. I assume you're a capitalist given your arguments.
They have to constantly go around, constantly change things because of the holes that are put into their ideology. Instead of gaining that perspective, they try to...
Instead of gaining what perspective? You're the one who's only looking at this from your perspective.
To lie
What?
about what it is they believe.
I didn't lie about what I believe. What? What?
It's genuinely sad.
What?
It's genuinely sad. But this is my favorite thing ever. Andrew
Ever.
Yang. I have found out that we have enough money going through our taxes that we have enough... I think it was enough money to pay people $1,500 a month.
The average monthly tax is about $12 something or $1,300. So I don't think we really make enough money to give everybody $1,500. Maybe just the people who need it. Maybe that might work.
Of UBI. And I'm like, you're kidding me. $1,500 a month, huh? Sounds to me like we could just cut taxes down.
No, that wouldn't work because most of the people who are paying higher tax rates have more money, right? And the people who need the UBI they're not paying $12 or $1,500 a month. They're paying significantly less than that. So you couldn't just cut taxes and help people that way, because we're trying to redistribute the money, not just let people keep the money that they made. It doesn't help anybody. Well, it helps the rich people, I guess.
If we fund people $1,500 a month, it seems the stress we need is to stop taking taxes out of people's paychecks, right?
No, that's a misunderstanding. No.
Everyone would be probably living it. That's essentially what he's admitted, is the government is taxing people so much that it's making it the people have a harder time living.
Yes, the fundamental misunderstanding of like how the UBI and taxes work
in society. That was just dumbfounding to me when he said that. Just absolutely insane.
What?
Yeah. On average, people are getting taxed about $1,500 a month.
12 or 13.
That's about normal, including state taxes as well.
Is that including state taxes? I don't actually know if it's including. That might just be federal. Usually state taxes are pretty low, so.
So we could afford to give all that money back.
No. Yeah, we as a country, could we afford to do it? Like, I don't think that that's true either. Like, the tax money goes to paying for, roads and the military and welfare and all that kind of stuff. We can't just give it all back. And moreover, even if we gave it all back, that wouldn't do what the UBI is supposed to do.
But why bother giving it back if you just don't take it in the first place?
Because if you don't take it in the first place, it stays in the hands of the wealthy, right? And not that that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Rich people should be allowed to have their money. But they could also contribute to help everyone. That's the whole point of a progressive tax system, is that the people with enough money who can afford to pay more to help the people who don't have enough money.
That's the thing about it. I do agree with social programs. I do agree we don't need a full-fledged free healthcare system. I think we need a full-fledged free emergency healthcare system.
That would be a start.
I think that's what we ought to focus on funding. That way people still, for certain situations, like let's say I want to get a wart removed off my neck or something.
Okay.
I don't think taxpayers need to pay for cosmetics. If something is going to quite possibly put you in millions of dollars of debt just to save your life, I think that is a burden that we as a society probably can help.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Most of the time we do, though.
No, we don't. What?
Most of the time.
What?
When somebody's in that situation, we got plenty of donors.
Donors is not the same thing as a government-funded healthcare system. Is he talking about? Okay. He must be talking about charity.
We have plenty of people sticking $5 in the pot. In fact, normally people
You're talking
a lot
about charity?
more money.
No, they don't.
Local charities.
No, what the
just
hell
going door
are you
to door,
talking
going,
about?
"Hey,
No.
I got a buddy who's literally got a rare case of
Lymphoma?
mesothelioma." Let's just say that. I was going to
Mesothelioma.
say a different thing, but I'm not sure that that's correct. So we'll go with mesothelioma.
Okay.
I got a buddy who's got mesothelioma, and he's gonna die if he doesn't get the funding. Do you have any money at all? Some people are gonna say I don't.
First of all, if he has mesothelioma, he can probably get part of a class action lawsuit. But okay, relying on charity clearly doesn't work. Our country has had charity since its foundation, since before its foundation, and that doesn't work, because if it did work, if it worked the way he says it works, people wouldn't be asking for socialized healthcare. They wouldn't be asking for universal payer healthcare. The logic here just doesn't even make sense. If you just think about it for 2 seconds, you would understand that what you're saying doesn't make sense.
And usually it's better than when the government does it.
No, it's not. There's no evidence for that. Please, I would love to see the evidence that charity is better than government-funded healthcare.
But again, I think there needs to be a smooth, consistent flow of cash to places like that. I think it could work out. But it's gotta be for something that is necessary, not a want.
What is a want here? Is insulin a want? Because, like, I guess in theory you could live without insulin. You know, is blood pressure medication a want? Because in theory you could live without the blood pressure medication. Like, where is the want cutoff?
Welfare, I don't think is great at all.
Why not?
I think there's a lot we could do to change our government. And
I
make
agree.
It probably
I totally agree. There are so many things we could do to change the government and make it better.
closer to like a Norwegian model or a Finnish model or something like that.
Great. Yeah, cool.
But not 100% because they also have their problems, right?
Everybody has
every
problems.
single person's going to have their problems. It's never going to get perfect.
They're not people, they're governments.
The problem is socialism. Socialists think they have the perfect system. And
Do they? I don't think I've ever heard a socialist say that. I've heard capitalists say that.
that's where it's wrong. The thing about it is us capitalists know we don't have a perfect system. But we know we're free to make our own choices.
You could live in an authoritarian government but have a capitalist system. Capitalism does not equate to freedom.
And that's
That's fucking propaganda. You're literally been brainwashed.
worth something more than what socialism could ever offer people. So anyway, I know there's a long video.
Yes, it is.
I didn't expect the guy to change his comment.
I didn't.
There's a lot of great gems in this. Like I said,
arguing with the straw man. I swear, I feel like most of the conversation I had with this guy was arguing with the straw man. Like he was arguing against someone who wasn't there, someone who wasn't me.
recommend you just watching this. The fact that Windows was not activated in the background, active in the.
All right, I don't really care about the rest of his video. If you stuck around, I really appreciate it. You know, if people like this video, I'll do more of them. If not, maybe I'll do more of them anyways. I don't know. I found this kind of fun. Yeah, anyways, thanks. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. Bye.